So you are looking to buy a house in Northern Colorado, and maybe this is your very first time purchasing a home, or maybe you just never bought a home in Colorado before. Well, today we are going to cover the home buying process and do a big overview so that you can feel confident once you start the process. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. My name is Stephanie Zambo, and I'm here to be your guide for all things Northern Colorado. So whether you have that moving truck packed up or you are just doing a bit of research, I am happy to assist you. Call, text, email anytime, and hit subscribe so you can be up to date on my latest videos. So you are looking to purchase a home here in the Northern Colorado area, and you want to know, how is this process going to go? So I'm going to cover kind of a broad overview of the entire home buying process. Just know that it will vary slightly depending on your individual situation, where and when you are looking to buy, and if you will be utilizing financing or not. But let's go ahead and dive in. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you want to purchase a home is get pre-approved with a lender. Now, what that means is you are going to have your credit run and submit financial documents in order for the lender to issue a pre-approval, stating what you are approved for and what your down payment is going to be. Now, if you are still several months out, say you're just doing a bit of research, you're not looking to buy for 6 months, maybe 12 months, a whole year, then you can always do what's called like a pre-qualification or just some initial research with a lender. And that way you're not having your credit pulled right away or having to submit all of the documents, although that is gonna be the best way to go about it for more solid pre-approval numbers and to understand ultimately how much home you're going to be able to afford. But if you're just doing a little bit of research, a lot of lenders are willing to go over rough numbers with you, kind of get a nice idea of what your income is, what your debts are, and roughly what your credit score is, and they can give you some initial numbers for you to play with. Now, if you are working on your credit, then sometimes it can be helpful to run your credit with a lender well in advance of you buying, so they can take a look at your full credit history and potentially offer you some guidance or resources to improve your credit over the next several months. So that way you're in a better position to buy when it is time. So ultimately, the higher your credit, the better loan you're going to qualify for, and you're going to be seen as less risky, which comes with benefits. So let's say you are looking to buy here in the next couple months, you're wanting to get pre-approved, you're going to be sending in the last 2 years of your taxes. You're going to be sending in W-2s if you are employed. If you're self-employed, you're going to be providing documentation for that, your most recent pay stubs, and ultimately the lender is going to review all of these items, get your debt to income ratio, and then issue you a pre-approval. Once you have that amount, you know what is going to be in budget for your home shopping. Now, you might qualify for more house than ultimately you're wanting to buy. And what that means is, say the lender says you can, you're approved for a purchase price of up to $650,000. But based on the monthly payment amounts that you want to stay within, you'd rather stay around the $550,000 range. That's another reason why it's important to get pre-approved up front. So that way you can go over not only what you qualify to purchase, but ultimately what purchase price is going to be the most comfortable for you on a month-to-month basis. You also will get to know what type of loans you qualify for, whether that's going to be an FHA loan for those first-time home buyers, or if it's been a little while since you purchased, you may be able to utilize an FHA loan all over again. A conventional loan, which typically means you have a higher credit and just better qualifying factors. So you'll be able to review all of that with your lender. And then you're going to want to pair up and find a great agent in the local market that you are looking. So these two things can happen simultaneously. I often work with buyers, especially buyers coming from out of state, that are looking to have an agent that knows the local area and can give them referrals to local people. So I often send my local lenders to people, and we're already kind of working together on a buyer agent basis, and I provide them with a pre-approval. But you will want that pre-approval before you go home shopping. So finding an agent and finding a lender can sometimes be simultaneous. Now, one thing when you're looking for an agent, just make sure that they are familiar with the local area. Look at their sales history, find out if they, have actually been doing business and know what they're doing. Find out what their strengths are, if they're really great at negotiation, if they've got experience with multi-unit properties, potentially if you're looking to be an investor. And just make sure you are finding somebody who knows what they're doing and is going to be a good guide for you. So once you've got your pre-approval, you've paired up with the agent, you really like them, you're going to then sign what's called an exclusive right to buy with the agent. And that's going to outline the duties that the agent has to you. So they can either be a buyer's agent or a transaction coordinator. You'll find the majority of the time here in Colorado that, and I know for myself personally, we often act as a buyer's agent. And the reason for that is we owe you fiduciary responsibility and also reserve the right to advise you. Whereas a transaction coordinator means that we're simply there to ensure that the paperwork is handled correctly and that all sides have everything turned in and that the process goes smoothly. But technically, as a transaction coordinator, you do not have the right to advise your client. So majority of the time, agents are going to want to work with you on a agency basis. Also, it's going to outline how the agent gets paid and whether or not that payment is going to come from you directly or from the seller through the purchase, which is going to often be the case, but you're going to have to discuss that with your agent and how they handle situations if the seller is not offering a cooperative commission or if they are offering less than what your buyer's agent charges. So just be sure to have those conversations up front. Then you're going to go through an overview of the process with your agent. They're going to sit you down, really get to know you, understand what your needs are, what you're looking for in your future home. And then once you start looking at homes, you're going to really figure out what it is that you absolutely need in a home and what are some items that you're maybe willing to be more flexible on. So maybe it's like the size of the backyard, but you do know you need a fully fenced backyard. Maybe it's you want 4 bedrooms, but really you only need 3 and some kind of space for an office. And maybe a loft space will work great for that. Or like a separate dining area on the main level that you could retrofit into an office. So those are different things that will come up as you begin your search process and really start to learn what you like and don't like in a home. Now, I often get presented with this question, and especially with first-time home buyers who go into a home, they really love it, and it's their first day of showings, and they wonder if they should go with a home that they've fallen in love with on just the first day, or if that's too early. And honestly, you're gonna have to just make that decision with yourself. It is gonna be your home. It's something your agent can offer you advice on, but ultimately it is your decision. However, finding a home that you love that early on is a great thing. It means that you're not spinning your wheels looking at a ton of homes. I usually recommend, if time allows, sometimes you're dealing with a multiple offer situation. If time allows, sleep on it. And if you feel like you would be upset if somebody else got that house, then that's usually a good indicator, and maybe you should make an offer. So that leads us in to the next step. So once you've found a home that you love, it's within your budget, you are ready to make an offer, you're gonna be sitting down with your agent and going over what's called the Colorado contract to buy and sell. Now, this contract is 20 pages long. It can seem overwhelming, but just know that Colorado in general is a very buyer-friendly state. They want to provide you with plenty of opportunities to do research on the property to ensure that it's ultimately going to be the best fit for you once it comes to close on the property. So that Colorado contract to buy and sell is going to have a bunch of deadlines in it. And those deadlines are going to be different items that you're going to be able to research. Some are buyer deadlines that you need to meet, and some are seller deadlines that they will need to meet and provide you documentation by. Now, it's a good idea to go over this contract and have a good sense of how the process is going to go. However, you don't need to have every single deadline and every single part of that contract memorized. Just a good firm understanding, because once you've submitted that offer and you've come up with your various deadlines, you've come up with the purchase price that you're willing to offer, you've discussed on whether or not you're going to ask for money, so concessions from the seller up front. Perhaps the carpet is in bad shape and the seller's offering $5,000 up front so that you can replace the carpet after closing. So those are all things that you'll discuss with your agent, and the offer that you submit is going to depend on several factors, including where is the property located, how long has it been on the market, what time of year is it, are there other offers already on the property. So there's going to be several factors that you're taking into consideration when it comes to submitting an offer and trying to get that offer accepted by the seller. So you submit a great offer along with your pre-approval, and the seller accepts it. Congratulations, you are under contract. And what that means is that the seller has accepted your offer, they've signed it. What happens next is that offer is then given to your lender, and it's also sent off to the title company. So the title company here in Colorado, we don't utilize attorneys. You're welcome to consult with an attorney, but the title company is going to be the party, a third party, that does research on behalf of you as the buyer and on behalf of the lender to make sure that the home is, one, in fact owned by the sellers that are selling the property, that nobody else has ownership rights or interest to that home, and that there's not any liens on the property, like unpaid taxes, or perhaps they paid they had a contractor come and do some work and they never paid them, and so there's a lien against the property. So the title company is going to do that research to ensure that when you go to purchase the property, that you own it fully. And, besides your mortgage, there is going to be a lien on the property if you are taking out a mortgage, but that is a normal part of the process. And another thing the title company is going to do is they're going to make sure that the legal property address is going to match up. So we make sure that that property address, that your kind of lot and block 123 Main Street, matches the legal property address. They're going to make sure to check out the most recent survey or ILC, an improvement location certificate on the property, to make sure where the property sits is accurate with what is on the records. Usually you will not need to pay to do an additional survey or an improvement location certificate unless you'd like to, or if it's a property with land, acreage, that kind of thing, then it may be required. But if it's a townhome or a single family home, it's been around, it's established, and the survey or the ILC matches everything, then the title is just going to utilize whatever's on file. They are also going to hold money. So once your offer gets accepted, you are going to have to submit what is called earnest money. Earnest money is essentially like a security deposit that you pay when you're renting, but this earnest money is held by the title company while you move through those deadlines in the contract that have been set. If for some reason something comes up during the transaction and you need to cancel the contract, as long as it's within the terms of the contract and the deadlines and you cancel it then you are going to be entitled to get that earnest money back in full. Now, that earnest money, if you move forward all the way to closing and you purchase the property, it's going to get refunded back to you at closing. So as part of your final down payment, closing costs, etc. So title company is going to also distribute funds once you make it to the closing table. So they're going to get funds to the seller, get funds to the government for taxes, the HOA for dues, if that's applicable. So that's kind of the role of title company. So once you go under contract, the title company will start their research. The contract will also be sent to your lender, and they're going to get it to the underwriter. And the underwriter is going to be a financial expert that's going to review all of the financial documents documents that you've submitted, HOA budgets and documents if applicable, and ultimately they're going to be the ones to approve you for your mortgage. So just know once you're under contract and the underwriter is reviewing things, it is very, very likely that they are going to ask for additional documents. Happens 99.9% of the time. So just make sure that you are communicating regularly with your lender and getting them any additional documents that they've asked for to ensure that you can close on the property in time. So title's doing their thing, lenders doing their thing, underwriters reviewing your financial documents. You are then going to start moving through those deadlines. Now, I work with a transaction coordinator, and that transaction coordinator is going to provide you with steady updates. They're going to set up an awesome digital file so you can reference your documents. Everything's going to be calendared. You're going to get a link with all of the deadlines laid out and what they mean. And you are going to be hearing from us on a continuous basis, so we ensure that you know what's going on and you are taking the proper steps throughout the process. So once that contract is signed, lenders, title, you're gonna also be ordering a home inspection. Highly recommend that you always have an inspection done. I'm here in Colorado, it is not required that a home inspector be licensed. So when you are shopping around for local home inspectors, and I do have some that I recommend, be sure to be looking for the fact that they are experienced, look at their reviews, and I highly recommend that you go with a licensed and insured home inspector. Now, the licensing entities are INTERNACHI, and that's going to be a designation that you will see for your licensed home inspectors. So once that's scheduled, you're going to have a home inspection done. They're going to provide you with a very thorough report of everything that's going on in the house. Now, a lot of those things are going to be just kind of your basic wear and tear. They're going to point out if a carpet's worn out or if there's some messed up paint, but they're also going to be looking for big issues like structural issues. If your roof is super old, what are the conditions of the air conditioning unit in your furnace? Is there evidence of water damage? Is there anything big going on in the home that you need to be aware of? So once you get that information on the inspection, you'll be able to submit what's called an inspection objection. And the inspection objection, in your sole discretion, is going to list out all of the items that you want the seller to address. And how that can be handled is they can be fixed prior to closing, or they can give you a credit so that way you can take care of those items after closing. Now, you may be limited in the amount of credits and concessions you can get, so we'll be working with your lender and your agent to ensure that you're staying within those guidelines. But beyond that, once those objections are submitted to the seller, we go into a negotiation period, and the seller can come back and say, yes, I'm willing to fix those. Prior to closing, I'll give you invoices and receipts. They can say, you know what, I don't have the time or energy to get this done. I'm gonna give you some money at closing so you can go ahead and take care of it. Or they can say, I'm not willing to address that at all. So that's where negotiations come in between either side. And both the listing agent and the buyer's agent, your buyer's agent, are going to be working to figure out a solution for both sides. Now, if for some reason a resolution, so you'll have an inspection resolution deadline, cannot be met, the Colorado contract for the inspection objection is set to automatically cancel the contract if you cannot come to a resolution. So that just shows you how buyer friendly that Colorado contract to buy and sell is, that if you can't come to a resolution with the seller, meaning you can't come to an agreement by that deadline, then it automatically cancels and you get your earnest money back. So everybody, all parties are highly incentivized to figure out a solution so that that contract does not cancel out. Now, we won't dive into every single deadline within that Colorado contract to buy and sell today, but another one is going to be a property insurance termination deadline, which means you have the right to get quotes for your property insurance, review not only just the costs, but the terms of the coverage and ensure that you are comfortable with insuring the property. You won't need insurance in place until closing, as those funds needed to insure your property will be sent off by the title company, and those funds will be collected as part of your closing costs, because if you are obtaining a mortgage, you do have to have insurance in place. So you'll want to be getting some quotes and looking into that. Again, I can offer local recommendations for great local insurance agents if you need them. Another thing that might be part of your due diligence is due diligence documents. And what those can include are any warranties on the property, but they can also include if there's something leased on the home, for example, solar. So if there's a solar system that is leased, you're going to want to review those lease documents as well as any terms of those, the cost of the solar monthly, and any kind of terms for the transfer of those solar documents. So that would be an example of due diligence documents, and there is a deadline for that within the contract. Another deadline is association documents. So there is going to be a deadline that the seller must provide HOA documents to you. And that's going to include not only the covenants and restrictions within the community and your home, it's also going to include the budget. And budgets for HOAs are incredibly important because you want to make sure that they have properly accounted for future costs and repairs, especially if you're looking at a condo or townhome, to ensure that they have those funds and there's not going to be what's called a special assessment where you are asked to pay additional money on top of your HOA dues. So you're going to be reviewing all of those HOA documents. You're going to have a couple days to review those, and there will be a deadline within the contract that you can cancel the contract if something comes up in those association documents that is not comfortable for you. So while all this is happening and your underwriter is reviewing it, you are going to be waiting for this wonderful word, and that is called the Clear to Close, or your CTC. And that is going to be issued by the underwriter once they have reviewed all of the financial documents and feel that you are fully approved for your loan. Now, you should be getting that CTC, clear to close, a couple days before closing. Sometimes it happens right before, but that loan availability deadline, which is a deadline within the contract, is there to protect you as the buyer in case for some reason you do not qualify for the loan. Now, this isn't just because you get cold feet and want to walk away. This is truly if for some reason they cannot loan on the property and issue the mortgage to you. Now, of course, this is an incredibly buyer protective deadline, so you're likely going to want to push that out as close to closing as possible, where the seller is going to want that more forward as possible. And that's usually a deadline that gets negotiated on more so than other deadlines. So, but once you've got that wonderful clear to close, your title company has issued a title commitment. So they've reviewed the chain of title, who had ownership. They are feel that they are able to insure the property and that it can be fully sold to you. Then they are going to be offering title insurance upon closing and issuing a title commitment. You're going to get your final closing disclosure from the lender, which is going to go over the terms of your loan, the costs of your loan, your monthly payment, and all of the escrows. So escrows are going to include your taxes, your insurance, and potentially any kind of HOA dues as well. You're going to have all of these parties working together. So I know that sometimes hearing about this can feel overwhelming, but just know that everybody's working together to help the seller sell the home to you and to help you purchase the home. And you are going to have so much support. So you're going to have your dedicated title representative. You're going to have your agent. You're going to have the transaction coordinator. If you work with me, you're going to have the home inspector there to answer questions. So just know that you have a big support system when it comes to purchasing a home, and you are not in this alone. So to finally wrap things up, you're going to get information on all of your utilities so you can have those set up the day of closing. You're also going to want to schedule internet setup if you're going to be moving into the home right away, because sometimes those can be delayed. And you're going to be prepping for closing. So making sure you have that valid ID, because you will have to notarize some documents. Scheduling a day for closing. You're going to do a final walkthrough of the home to make sure that it's in good shape. It looks the same as when you first walked it and decided to make an offer, if not better, because there might be some repairs done. If some repairs were going to get done per your inspections, then we're going to be collecting final invoices and receipts and looking at documentation. And then you're going to get to go to the closing table and sign a ton of documents. You're going to be signing loan documents as well as final closing documents and getting a copy of your deed, which shows that you are in fact now the owner of the home. Congratulations. Depending on what you agree to with the seller, you might be able to move in right away, or you might have issued what's called a post-closing occupancy agreement, which gives the seller some time to stay in the home or move after closing, where you get possession of the property a few days later. that's something to discuss with your agent because there are nuances to that if the seller does need to stay a bit. But once you have signed, the home is officially yours. You're going to get keys, and then you're gonna get to start moving. So if you need recommendations for local movers, if you're just needing recommendations, if you're getting some paint done, maybe some new flooring, just know that if you work with me, I do have great local recommendations for all of the contractors that you could possibly need. And so that finalizes your home buying process overview. Now, of course, there are some additional deadlines. There could be things that are different just based on the individual home, but hopefully that gives you a good sense of the whole entire process and makes you feel secure in taking the next steps. Again, just know that it can feel overwhelming and exciting. It might be the biggest purchase of your whole entire life, so it's okay to feel a little bit nervous. That's a good thing. But it can also be an incredibly exciting and rewarding part of your life. Just make sure you're choosing a great team to act as your support system as you go through the process. Well, thanks for going through that with me. Again, my name is Stephanie Zambo here in Northern Colorado. Whether you're packing that moving truck or you're just doing a bit of research, I'm happy to be a resource to you. Call, text, email me anytime, and don't forget to hit subscribe. I'll see you next time.